Welcome to the Fountains Studio Celebration, and a special welcome to all our new viewers and those of you who have recently subscribed to our YouTube channel and liked our Facebook page. We're grateful to all of you who've not only subscribed to and liked our pages and posts, but who've made comments and forwarded studio links to friends and family you think would like what we're up to. As you know, we're in the middle of a message series based on Kurt Struckmeyer's latest book, People of the Way. I am so grateful to Kurt for his ability to aggregate so much pertinent information, and especially in this series, help me articulate to you an important perspective on following Jesus today. If you'd like to do a deeper dive, I encourage you to visit Kurt's website, followingjesus.org, and his Facebook page of the same name. Plus, Kurt's books are available wherever books are sold. But for now, from wherever and whenever you're joining us, we're glad you're here.
Join us as we get in the Spirit. In the name of our God, who shares divinity with us.
In the name of our God, who shares humanity with us.
In the name of our God, who unsettles and inspires us.
Let us celebrate the presentness of God.
Great things happen when God mixes with us. Great things happen when God mixes with us. Great and beautiful, wonderful things. Great things happen when God mixes with us. Some find life, some find peace. Some people even find joy. Some see things as they never could before. And some people find that they can now begin to trust. Great things happen when God mixes with us. Great things happen when God mixes with us. Great and beautiful, wonderful things. Great things happen when God mixes with us. Some find health, some find hope. Some people even find joy. Some see themselves as they never could before. And some people find that they can now begin to live. Great things happen when God mixes with us. Great things happen when God mixes with us. Great and beautiful, wonderful things. Great things happen when God mixes with us. Some find peace, some are disturbed. Some people even find joy. Some see their lives as they never could before. And some people find that they must now begin to change. Great things happen when God mixes with us. Great things happen when God mixes with us. Great and beautiful, wonderful things. Great things happen when God mixes with us.
Let's affirm the Fountains mission together.
As followers of Jesus, we put love first.
Today is the 5th Sunday of Lent. We acknowledge the times we have failed to live up to our claimed allegiance to Jesus, just as the disciples failed to do so long ago.
Jesus prayed that we may be one, but we continue to quarrel and cause divisions. The Spirit is ours for guidance, but we close our hearts to His encouragement. It is so much easier to avoid the hard road by denying or being apathetic. about the call Jesus has placed in our lives. Spirit, give us strength.
Jesus said, "The light is with you for a little longer. Walk while you have the light, so that the darkness may not overtake you."
Goodness is stronger than evil. Love is stronger than hate. Light is stronger than darkness. Life is stronger than death.
As we come to this time of quiet and openness, may we breathe deep, still the chatter in our minds, and open ourselves to the nearness of the source of life. We acknowledge the joys and concerns of those close to us, named or remembered, and name the people and gifts in life that fill us with gratitude. We're also mindful of the needs and struggles of those everywhere whose lives are haunted by fear, grief, discrimination, violence, or want. May they know the Spirit's presence and, where possible, our expression of concern and helping hand. As we make space in our own hearts, we welcome the refreshing presence of the sacred, renewing us, healing us, and challenging us to see new possibilities, both for our lives and for all of creation. In the here and now, we center down. May our hearts and minds be open.
Where love and caring are, there is God. Where love and caring are, there is God. Where love and caring are, there is God. Where love and caring are, there is God.
We gather acknowledging a power, a presence beyond our human words and images, energizing, holding everything in a connectedness and relationship, a presence that comes to expression everywhere at all times in the vastness of this universe.
We acknowledge we live and move and have our being in this presence. We rejoice in our conscious awareness of this presence and of our intimate connectedness with it.
We give thanks for all men and women across the centuries who have struggled with words and images to understand this mystery beyond all words and images, and to understand our relationship with this mystery.
In our daily lives, may our awareness of the mystery guide us as we live in reverence, wonder, connectedness, and hope. This is our prayer.
We offer this time of quiet, bringing our whole selves in the name of the one who taught his first followers to pray the prayer we now sing together.
This day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
From year-round members who call the fountains home to seasonal visitors who connect with us for just a few months of the year, all of us have gifts and talents to offer in putting love first in the world. As we continue this month's Keeping Up the Momentum campaign, let's hear about the impact the Fountains has had on lives of both our year-round members and seasonal visitors, each finding connection and purpose as leaders and participants in what we're able to accomplish together as a community.
Hi, I'm Nancy Garten.
And I'm Mike Garten. We're from Fountain Hills, Arizona.
Hi, I'm Melva Ongstead, and this is my husband,
Dave Ongstead.
and we're from Coon Rapids, Minnesota.
Well, we've joined the Fountains about 15 years ago and have enjoyed it ever since. One of the biggest impacts for me in the Fountains is changing the way I think about my religion and how I want to be working for Jesus. I was raised in a community where it was not okay to think about your religion or question the dogma that we were told we had to believe. And in fact, if we questioned that dogma, we were told that God would not love us either today or into eternity.
When we came to Fountain Hills, we were looking for a church that was open to everyone. And we found the Fountains, and we were so glad that the theme was to put love first.
I've met some lifelong friends, and I've only been going there 2 years, but I have a great association with several of these people. We even get together sometimes in the summer back in Minnesota, and you know, I have a connection with God that I haven't had in a long time, if ever.
I have found that the people The Fountains are very caring and very giving. There are no expectations at the church for us to do anything, but there are loads and loads of opportunities for us to do things at the Fountains. And I have tried to avail myself of some of those opportunities and do some of the things that I enjoy and hope can impact the lives of others.
That welcomed me, and they even remembered my name. I wasn't there for almost a year, and they welcome back Dave. How are things in Minnesota? Well, if they were great there, we wouldn't be here. But we love the weather, we love the people, and we love the church.
We feel very fortunate to be a part of the Fountains community. It gives us an opportunity to put love first, and we invite you and anyone else to be a part of the Fountains and do what you like to do to help walk with Jesus.
If you haven't received your pledge card yet, don't hesitate to reach out to the office at welcome@weputlovefirst.org. We're encouraging everyone to bring or mail in their pledge card to the Fountains by Palm Sunday, March 24th, so we can tally up the response and let everyone know how close we are to our 200,000, keeping up the momentum goal on Easter Sunday. If you'd rather forego the pledge step, you can go directly to our secure Vanco mobile site at give.weputlovefirst.org and know that however you give, your contribution helps ensure the Fountains can continue doing the important work and witness we're known for in the community. Thanks in advance for being a vital part of our community. Together, let's continue keeping up the momentum at the Fountains.
Every day, the Fountains strives to put love first, both in person and online.
And if you're one of our many regular online viewers, we're grateful for your participation as a digital member.
Every week, you hear about all the many ways you can give electronically to support this online outreach, like using the QR code on the screen, going to give.weputlovefirst.org, or downloading the Vanco mobile app. Then, when you're on our secure giving site, be sure to look for the line that says Studio Celebration Donation.
The contribution here lets us know you're out there, that the studio is important to you, and that you want to be part of supporting this growing digital outreach.
So wherever and whenever you're watching, we're glad you're joining us.
Thanks in advance for supporting the studio financially.
Just a quick note of thanks before our musical offering. As you probably know, we try to create a liturgy and choose music that fits with the theme of the message each Sunday. And sometimes that can pose a challenge. This week, the words of wisdom are from Amos, a text not often used in church because of its prophetic critique of religion. Subsequently, we couldn't find any music that really supported Amos's rant. I reached out to Amanda Udis Kessler in Colorado to see if she could direct us toward any possibilities, but she agreed. Like any institution, the church's first priority is to protect itself, and therefore it doesn't usually write or commission music about the shortcomings of the church. But behold, just a day later, Amanda had taken it upon herself to write original words to a hymn that were inspired by today's Amos reading. And they're right on theme. Then Donna and Richard arranged it, recorded it, and put video to it, all in the course of a couple of days. So, I wanted to once again say how grateful I am to have partners and friends in ministry like Amanda, Donna, and Richard. It is such a gift to have their enthusiastic participation in offering their creative gifts in helping the Fountains get the message out in original and profound ways.
transgressed. Our promises are broken. In sorrow we confess. How may we earn your favor? What would you have us do? Oh God of love and mercy, return us now to you. The prophets told their people of all that God demands, that justice flows like water across a withered land, that righteousness renews us, that kindness guides our hearts. With what shall we approach you, the will to do our parts? Our work for peace and justice seems louder than our songs, attending to the stranger will show our love is strong. The hungry and the homeless receive our food and care. The freeing of the captive remains our greatest prayer. The fast that God has chosen, we now will make our own, to live so all can flourish, to give to all alone, to welcome every neighbor, to love the last and least. And so we shall approach you and join your joyous feast, and join your joyous feast. You've given us so much, yet we ask one more thing from you. Give us the gift of choosing to live with hearts full of gratitude. You've given us so much, that we ask one more thing from you. Give us the gift of choosing to live with hearts full of gratitude. Give us the gift of choosing to live with hearts full of gratitude.
Today's text is from one of the most neglected books of the Bible, avoided like the plague by any preacher trained to avoid upsetting apple carts. The circumstances of its having been written so clearly parallel our own society that it's hard to spiritualize away its blunt, prophetic words into fluffy, feel-good platitudes. So, Amos is not a book on which you often hear sermons. Part of the reason it's avoided is because it hits a little too close to home. The folks at the top of Amos's society are experiencing extraordinary economic prosperity, much of which has been made possible by official policies and cultural norms that have systematically disenfranchised the poor and destroyed the ancient Israelite equivalent of the middle class. Amos, who is speaking the words of the Lord, lets the people know that God is totally fed up with them. They're living in this bubble of extravagance, of numbness and denial. They think they are so special and blithely keep repeating the same old words and actions over and over again, thinking it's going to please God. They are totally oblivious to the fact that what they do and say is, to God, just so much noise.
Our words of wisdom are from Amos chapter 5, verses 21 through 24. I despise your festivals, and I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer me your burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. And the offerings of well-being of your fatted animals, I will not look upon.
Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps. But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.
Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church.
Thanks be to God.
A couple of friends were preparing a roast for dinner when one of them unceremoniously cut an inch off of each end of the meat before putting it in the roasting pan. The friend asked her, "Why are you doing that?" And she said, "Well, that's the way my mom did it." Not satisfied with this answer, the skeptical friend persuaded the other friend to call her mom and ask why she would always cut an inch off each end of the pot roast. The mother said, "It's the way my mom did it." Well, now it was getting interesting. So all three of them got on a call with the grandmother and asked her why she would always cut an inch off of each end of the pot roast. The grandmother just laughed and said, "We used to be very poor and didn't own a lot of cookware. I cut the ends off the meat so it would fit into my only pan." How much of our lives are driven by the tyranny of, that's the way we've always done it, long after the original rationale is irrelevant? It never crosses our mind to question it until we do. Then we have to make some decisions about how to go forward. Church-going baby boomers spent their early lives dutifully cutting an inch off of each end of our religious experiences. Why? Because that's the way our parents and grandparents did it. No questioning allowed, no inquiry. Religion, faith, church, all of it was totally secondhand. And then, when we started to face the real challenges in life, we realized that what we'd been taught was so shallow as to be toothless and pointless. In the 1950s, God help you if you were anything other than white, male, heterosexual, and Protestant. And the church reinforced these values. Most Americans practiced a religion that was frequently without serious commitment, convictions, or any real grasp of the radical social justice implications of what Jesus actually taught. In both personal lives and the church, two things were prioritized: success, both numerically and financially, and not rocking the boat. Etiquette demanded there be no critiquing of social norms, and that there be silence in the face of damning social ills. In 1963, when Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested in Alabama, the white clergy scolded him and argued that he needed to slow down and moderate his demands for an end to unequal treatment under the law. In his famous letter from Birmingham jail, he responded with disappointment that the white clergy were being driven more by a fear of cultural rejection than by Jesus' vision of a beloved community. As King said, "So often the contemporary church is a weak, ineffectual voice with an uncertain sound. So often it is an arch defender of the status quo." Is it any wonder that today's passage from Amos was so often on MLK's mind? I despise your festivals, and I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer me your burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps. But let justice roll down like water, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. In 1965, author Pierre Berton published a book exposing most churches as being primarily about promoting the comfort of their members, blessing the privileged status quo for upwardly mobile middle-class white Protestants, and not really caring about making a tangible difference in the world. He called his book The Comfortable Pew. And guess what? Little has changed. In fact, by the end of the 20th century, it was hard for pollsters to distinguish the attitudes of the most highly religious people in the U.S. from the worst aspects of American society: racism, anti-Semitism, misogyny, heterosexism, unquestioning patriotism, and rabid militarism. Kristen Kobes-Dumez is a history professor at Calvin College and the author of Jesus and John Wayne. She points out that the faith of today's self-identified Christian is more likely shaped by conservative political values than anything Jesus would recognize: racial identity, a sex-obsessed purity culture, and a growing Christian nationalism among them. As Nazi-era German pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer observed of his situation, "Religion has become a superficial garment and not a radical practice that takes the teaching of Jesus seriously." So where does that leave us? The capital C church has been dismissed by millions as an irrelevant social club, and worse, as a danger to the future of humanity. Polling suggests that the attitude of many young people towards the church is outright disgust. Look around. The historic cathedrals of Europe are largely tourist attractions. Across the U.S., church attendance and membership has plummeted. Seminary enrollments are down, and because of the toxic political culture of lies and fake news and hate slopping over into our churches, pollsters report that in the last year, nearly 50% of current pastors have seriously considered quitting. And it's not just mainline churches. The Southern Baptist Church, recently doubling down on its trademark misogyny and covering up an epidemic of clergy sexual abuse, has been losing members for 14 straight years. And now, for the first time in American history, the single largest religious group in the U.S. is the nones. That's the N-O-N-E-S, folks who claim no affiliation with any religious group. And why? They say it's because the church is homophobic, anti-science, anti-woman, and is generally sold out to the status quo. Many pastors who haven't already quit and joined the deconstruction or evangelical movements remain trapped in churches where they're afraid to talk about issues that matter, opting instead for end-time prophecies and a fixation on the sins of others. And this is not a new phenomenon. 150 years ago, during America's so-called Gilded Age, when the things I preach about today were just being introduced in our seminaries and the cover-up in our churches were beginning to take root, Robert Ingersoll joined Amos, MLK, and Bonhoeffer in lamenting, "Not one of the ministers dare preach what he thinks, if he knows a majority of his congregation think otherwise. He knows that every member of his church stands guard over his brain with a creed, like a club in his hand. He knows that he is not expected to search after the truth, but that he is employed to defend the creed. Every pulpit is a pillory in which stands a hired culprit, defending the justice of his own imprisonment." Look, everything that the hippest of churches have tried, from praise bands to coffee shops to pastors wearing plaid shirts and torn jeans, are just superficial window dressing. They just keep doubling down on the one thing they need to drop: their addiction to the gospel about Jesus. In the end, the best thing you can say about most churches is that if the 50s ever come back, they'll be ready. And I don't know how many more times and ways I can say it. The young people are not coming back. 2 generations ago, their parents stopped going to or taking them to church. So they have no background and little interest in formal religion, let alone taking their kids to church. But you know what they do have interest in? Critical thinking, treating others fairly. They want to live authentic and meaningful lives. And as many believe this is the only life we have, they want to make the most of it. They want to be part of a more humane, just, and compassionate society based on reason, experience, and knowledge. And if you visit the website of the American Humanist Association, those atheist devils the evangelical church rails against, you'll read that humanists believe that a commitment to social justice is essential to peace and happiness for the greatest number of people, and that it is a moral failing to stand by while others are denied their civil and human rights. Hey, wait a second. Who is that sounding like? As one of my professors used to say, when you get right down to basic values, Jesus was an incorrigible humanist. Respect for the dignity and equality of all people, compassion for all people, and a conviction that we are tasked with disrupting forces of dehumanization like racism, white supremacy, sexism, and homophobia. That's not just humanism, that's the gospel of Jesus. And yes, spirituality is an important element, but not the spirituality where you spend all of your emotional and rational energy on believing a predetermined set of answers and practicing an established set of rituals. Amos has told us what God thinks of all that. I despise your festivals, and I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. The spirituality we need to embrace is the spirituality that is another name for longing, for meaning, connection, empathy, more passion, things that most people have not found in church. But we all have felt it, that occasional glimmer of the transcendent in your life, feelings of awe and wonder, a reverence for the majesty and beauty we encounter in nature, images of the vastness of the universe from the Webb telescope. As our guide Kurt Struckmeyer observes, we glimpse it in a glorious sunset, the deep quiet of a forest, the lights of the aurora borealis, a moving piece of music, a tender moment, the face of a newborn child, or the death of a loved one. It is the sense that in the midst of everyday life, we are standing on holy ground. And if we can get beyond the gospel about Jesus and embrace the gospel of Jesus, the words of Methodist Walter Wink make perfect sense. We're not required to become divine, flawless, perfect, without blemish. We're invited simply to become human, which means growing through our sins and mistakes, learning by trial and error, being redeemed over and over from compulsive behavior, becoming ourselves, scars and all. It means embracing and transforming those elements in us that we find unacceptable. It means giving up pretending to be good and instead becoming real. I, along with Kurt Struckmeyer, and I imagine many of you, have had a lifelong love-hate relationship with the church. It's been both the catalyst for some of our deepest and most meaningful relationships and experiences, and the source of some of the most frustrating and maddening struggles. And the painful reality is this: the disillusion of the church, as most of us have known it in our lives, is now inevitable. The question is, are we going to just throw up our hands and surrender? Or are we going to embrace the reality that people are still hungry for the more that we've come to know in the gospel of Jesus? It's just been suffocated under thousands of years of theological and pious insulation. If you've ever heard any poetry by Dylan Thomas, it's probably "Do not go gentle into that good night." And it's admonition that even in the face of death, it's not too late to rant with fierce tears, not too late to blaze. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. But here's the part that really stirs me up. The wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning. They do not go gentle into that good night. Forked no lightning? Yes! Friends, before the church can become whatever the church will be in a future that none of us can predict, it needs to admit that our words have forked no lightning. More often than not, we seek to avoid the flash and the rumble and illuminating light that the storm of Jesus' teaching can stir up. We opt instead for the saccharine sweetness of gentle Jesus, meek and mild. I have sat with dying friends, clergy mentors, who in their last days have confessed with regret having mollycoddled a whole generation of Jesus followers into living a benign life of worshiping Jesus without taking the risk to do what Jesus actually asked of us. In the words of Dylan Thomas, these were good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced. Well, I, for one, do not want to follow in their footsteps. I aim to rage against the dying of the light. And for me, that means calling out with extreme prejudice the inadequacies of the gospel about Jesus and doubling down on the gospel of Jesus. And what does that look like? It means joining forces with the nuns, the secular humanists, and anyone else who embraces the same values that Jesus embraced and that many churches have betrayed. Going forward, if the church is to exist, it's going to have to change. But fortunately for us, we don't have to recreate the wheel. Jesus has already shown us what being people of the way is all about. We need to get out of our buildings and into the world. We need to recover our prophetic voices for the sake of our neighbors who are oppressed, excluded, and left out. We need to move on from our enslavement to rituals, creeds, and dogma that make no sense in the modern world. And we need to learn what it means to share our lives with not just other people, but with creation itself. Basically, we need to stop cutting an inch off each end of the roast. Harold Beck used to tell the story of how one year the oldest living alumni from BU School of Theology came for alumni weekend. He was 96. They didn't know what to do with him, so they invited him to chapel. And in an unguarded moment, one of the faculty asked, would you like to speak to the students? And he said, yes. And Harold thought, oh, good heavens, he'll be longer than I am. Nevertheless, they draped him over the pulpit, and he looked out at the students and said, I would like to thank my alma mater for setting me free without casting me adrift. And he sat down. Friends, we can be set free. And while it may seem so to some, it is not the same as being cast adrift. In Jesus' call for us to put love first is the challenge, the joy, and the freedom to offer the world what it still hungers for. And we're not allowed to give up until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Be well.
God who sets us on a journey to discover, dream and grow. Lead us as you led your people in the desert long ago. Journey inward, journey outward. Stir the spirit, stretch the mind.
Join me in these words of challenge and blessing as we go. Go into the world, dance, laugh, sing, and create.
We go with the encouragement of God.
Go into the world, risk, explore, discover, and love.
We go with the empowerment of God.
Go into the world, believe, hope, struggle, and remember.
We go with the assurance of the love of God.
Amen.
Amen.